Hello there, Parth Sharma this side, bringing you the games from the Lindores Abbey Rapid Challenge that was taking place on Chess 24. The 4 rounds were played today, and I'm going to be looking in this video from the best games of the first 2 rounds. The first game that I'd be looking at would be of Magnus Carlsen with white pieces against Alexander Grischuk from round 1. When Magnus Carlsen was going bonkers on the Twitter, he recently posted that he would charge triple if invited on chess.com, accused of charging higher fees taking part in the Online Nations Cup. Apparently, however, politics are step aside of whatever is happening regarding those. We always try to focus on the chess matters and what happens on the chess board, not off it. So Magnus Carlsen was coming in this tournament fresh from his victory from Stein's Memorial Blitz Challenge, and he won there quite convincingly. And as I mentioned, the Twitter banter of giving him 3 whites or rigging him 3 whites, that trend was going on, but nothing sort of that is happening from this video. We start the game of Magnus Carlsen playing Alexander Grischuk. Carlsen with white pieces plays e4. Grischuk responds with e5 and Berlin defends, and this has been quite a trend. And it was said by Vladimir Kramnik. He used this weapon against Garry Kasparov, and he was quite effective, and he exploited that against Garry. He wasn't able to score a win in that championship using that. And normally people go into this endgame variation of castling, and then knight takes d4, and then knight it goes to e6, and so on. Low mat variation as it's known. But here Carlsen goes for d3, so he doesn't want to go into the endgame variation here. He wants to keep the position complicated, he wants to give himself chance, and again, as usual, he wants to set his authority right from the word go. First game, he doesn't want to go into endgame complications, and maybe the chances would be 50-50. He's trying to take the bull by its horns. Bishop c5, all known, and he's gone for this exchange variation of Rai Lopez. Knight c3, obviously if you take, then queen d4 comes with the threat, and also this mate threat on f2, not advisable. Black castles, bishop e3, bishop defends the pawn, and d6, bishop g5, and I thought this was somewhat misstep, moving the bishop, but black not exchanging, and also he also wasted his tempi by playing his bishop back to d6. It somewhat compensated for this bishop move, or two moves for the bishop, whereas he would have gone bishop g5 straight away. Nevertheless, and in the game against Karyakin, Magnus played rook e8. This was the game in 2017 against Sergei Karyakin, and after h3, Karyakin played c5 in that game, and Carlsen won a beautiful game in that. Well, we don't have time to go into that, will some other time. But here Grischuk, after bishop g5, plays queen e7 in this position, which isn't so bad. His intention is to play queen here and try to bring the rook so that this knight is freed from this nasty pin. Okay, he continues with h3, stopping bishop g4. Very sensible idea. Rook e8. And Carlsen starts to push his kingside pawns. And we have seen these themes quite a while where black has already committed itself to the king side, so white has the opportunity to attack on the king side since its king hasn't castled yet. and after queen d2 then white would also try to castle long, whereas if you look at black's position, black has 4 passed pawns, and if he uses this c6 pawn to break the queenside structure of white, then these 3 pawns can be absolutely deadly. And well, that's we are long far away from that story. Let's come into the game. Queen e6, knight h4. The simple elementary plan is to place this knight here, and if in a good time, if this bishop takes, then white can use this pawn to capture, can try queen d2 and castle, and try to push f4 to create more weaknesses into the black's king side and to initiate some serious play, which could be decisive. And here if black tries, he can play h6 here just to kick that bishop away. Then comes bishop e3 and king h7. After knight f5, b5, and it seems like white has found a safe home, or black has found a safe home in this position. With no threats, he will use the c pawn again, as I said, to ruin the pawn structure on the queen side. b4, white comes soon to tuck this knight away. Knight e2 won't be a perfect square. Maybe knight would go to a4, then b5, a5. These sort of plans would come, and the position would be somewhat compensatory for black. Another opportunity after knight h4 is to play bishop f8. Now this move would have been pretty absurd, to play first bishop c5, then bishop here, and then you place the bishop on its home square. It somewhat looks quite dubious, but actually it isn't, because after knight f5, b5, queen f3, b4, black is too fast to deal with any counterplay that white has on the king side, because after, let's say, h6 or g6, if g6, then black can come here, and h6 you can tuck this bishop off anytime. Meanwhile, the pawn is attacking the knight, so knight has to go either here or here. But then after a5, c5, this pawn would be protected, and it would be very difficult for white to decide whether to go here or here. If he goes here, then he won't try to attack on the king side, since he would have pushed his pawns way too far away in front of the king, and the position could go wide open. Whereas if he castles here, then these pawns can be very deadly, and again, as I said, using the c pawn to disrupt the pawn structure of white on the queen side. But after knight h4, Grischuk plays knight d7 here, and again this was quite absurd, because this blocks this bishop. It hinders the development of this queen's bishop of black, which is in so many cases turns out to be a poor bishop, and he's turning this bishop into even a poorer piece, because this bishop doesn't have any moves now. I can understand what the idea of Grischuk is. He wants to play knight c5 here, or bishop c5, or bishop b4 for that matter. That position could also be playable. Carlsen continues with his plan, knight f5, just storming this knight in the middle, and possibly if anything captures, then e captures, and things could turn out to be devastating. Knight c5, that's what Grischuk planned, and he's played. But now h4, Carlsen starts to push his kingside pawns. Bishop f8, that's a good move. h5, that's another good move. f6, okay move, not a bad idea, attacking the bishop, so bishop comes back. Queen f7, try to put more safety into black's king position. Things are still fine. f4, e takes f, bishop takes f, that was necessary, e takes f, b5, so now he's pushing his king side or queen side pawns to attack this knight, and that's a very good strategy up to this point, as I already mentioned, to disrupt the queen side. It's probably umpteenth time that I've repeated this, but still still is relevant, and you can see this effect. Queen f3, so preparing queenside castling. Knight e6, preparing c5. Bishop comes to e3, stops c5. Yes, he can play c5 here, but then comes knight d5, and that could be annoying. And also this pawn is hanging, by the way, so c5 won't be possible. And here this move could look dubious, but actually it's one of those good defensive moves which wasn't played in the game, and that would have been h6. And when you see h6, you seem to get frightened because you see these sacrificial ideas, but actually black is fine because this bishop defends this h6 pawn and also stops this h6 advance from white, which could be very deadly. And with f6 being played, g5 square is somewhat very heavily guarded by black, so h6 would have been a good move. White plays a3, stopping this b4, which would have been annoying. Then a5 reinstates this b4 thing, and could have been better for black, this position. But after bishop e3, Grischuk plays bishop b7, which at first glance looked to me quite odd, and I didn't like this move because again this bishop isn't doing anything here, and it isn't serving any purpose. There's no point playing rook a d8 here because white would castle and your queenside attack will be nullified, and this bishop is already blocked by this pawn, so it isn't a good piece even at b7, and it loses a lot of time. So Carlsen, taking advantage of this, long castles b4. This is too slow in my opinion, because after knight a4 you cannot play c5 because two pieces control that, and you still play c5. Okay, this knight also controls this, but after h6 white's play is very strong on the king side. g6, knight g7, and this was very necessary. If knight g3, then bishop c6 attacks the knight. Not pleasant indeed. So knight g7 was necessary, and bishop takes g7, h takes g7, and if you take this with the king, then knight takes pawn. As I said, the c5 is vulnerable. c4 being played, knight c5, this was taken, and after c takes d comes a5, which was in my opinion way too slow, because after bishop f8 things don't look very good for black, doesn't have very good moves. If black isn't careful, let's say f5, then a very nasty sacrifice from white is landing on h7. If king takes, you can play either queen, but I would like to play rook. I like rooks mating rather than queen, and this is awesome. These things are quite awesome. You can do the same with this queen by playing this and this, but rooks are awesome. So after bishop f8, rook has to take the bishop. That's forced. G f8 queen, rook f8, king b1. This was very important because the queen was attacking the pawn. Queen d7, rook c1 taking the open file, a4, queen e3 just centralizing the queen for the moment, rook f7, rook c4 attacking the b4 pawn, b3, a3, and now simple move would have been to play bishop a6, but queen takes g4 loses immediately, because after rook takes a4 there isn't any good defense. You play c5, but that can be taken. But Grischuk was running a bit short of time, and I can understand why did he finally blundered, and that was f5. He thought that this can't be taken because of this double pin, but that doesn't work. Rook d4, f e4, rook d8 check, rook f8, rook straight 8, king takes, queen c5 check, king e8, queen takes c7, threatening the bishop, bishop c8, queen e5 check, king d8, queen h8 check, king c7, rook takes h7 check, king c6, queen c3 check. The queen protects the bishop, so that was immune. King d6, queen d4 check, king e6, and after d takes e4, Grischuk resigned the game. If you think that black's gonna mate on the black back rank, well, that doesn't work because all these mates are covered by the queen here, and the center pawn is a monster here. You might see queen c4 wrapping up this pawn as well. You might see queen d5 check here, and then this happens, then rook f7 would be mate. So what a fabulous victory this was from Magnus Carlsen in game 1. But Carlsen played another beautiful game. That was against Aronian in round 2, and that was my second favorite game from the first 2 rounds, or I should say second favorite game from first favorite game from round 2, I should say. Rephrase that, pardon me. And again Carlsen was with white pieces, opens with 1 e4 against Levon, who is black, and he plays Petrov. Knight takes, d6, knight f3, recapture of the pawn, and this is also very well known variation. But this somewhat tends to draw. We saw a game between Fabiano Caruana and Fang Hao in the feedhs.com Online Nations Cup, and yeah, and there's a title, what a bulldoze, of that video, and he's really bulldozed Wang Hao Fabiano with white pieces. So white has a lot of chances in this position, and he always looks to long castle, which he does. Well, I don't like this move knight d7, again the same case of blocking this bishop, but still it isn't very significant at the moment. The basic aim was to play knight f6, which wasn't actually played. But if he had played knight f6, Levon, then bishop d3, rook e8, rook h1, bishop g4, and position is quite playable for both the sides, no significant threats, and the game would have been fascinating to watch. But after long castles by Magnus, Levon plays c6, which somewhat weakens this pawn, and you can easily attack this by playing bishop f4, but d5, possibly c6 is also preparing d5, so I won't blame them. And even in this game also, Carlsen attacks on the king side, h4. So he's basically came out to attack the opponent king as soon as possible. d5, that the purpose of c6, bishop d3, the same story as we saw in that game against in the game of Fabi and Wang Hao. Something landing here, and maybe c4 sort of things. You always see this c5 c4 thing that Fabi was mentioning in that game. I will be putting link on that I tab. You can see that. Rook e8, rook d1, knight f6, and probably he should have played bishop g5, but knight g5 isn't bad either. c5, so we are following the same threads, remember, but this knight was here in that game, and the c4, as we said, but Carlsen shuts that plan with c4, playing c4 himself. h6, attacking the knight, c takes d5, and Aronian here could have played queen takes d5, and the long pause that I took was I couldn't believe my eyes. Why did he play what he played? Queen takes d5 would have been better. c4, no time to take, the queen is attacked. Queen tucks back to d7, queen c2, rook d8, and there is very nice combination which eventually ends in a draw, in a freakish draw I would say. Bishop h7 check, king f8, knight takes at f7. You sacrifice this knight, but this is done to dilute the position into a draw. Let's say king f7, queen g6, king f8 is the only move, and you sacrifice the bishop as well. G takes, and now white has nothing better than to take the draw by perpetual like this, and this is draw by perpetual check. But here after cd5, Aronian plays c4, the move that Fabi showed, but the position was different. And here c4 is actually losing. You may as well think that, okay, I attack both pieces now, but Carlsen just took, and this is a big misjudgment from Levon Aronian, because this loses immediately. Now you are a pawn down and you have to take the knight, and this is a huge blunder, because after h takes g5 this file is wide open, and if this knight doesn't move, or if the knight does move, then queen d1 and queen h5 is unstoppable. Let's see, this knight does move, queen d1, no defense to queen h5, not at all. And if you try to stop that with g6, then queen d4 is like life threatening for black. Bishop takes g5, queen h5, threatening mate in 1. And if black tries to stop this by bishop h6, then bishop takes h6, g takes, rook takes e4, eliminating one more defender from the position. His king is wide open, no defense to f6. You can try queen f6, but this is all in vain, because you will give up the rook and the game would end very soon indeed. So after queen h5, Aronian took the bishop with check. This was taken by the rook, and f5, well, Carlsen could have mated him quite easily after queen g6 and then d6, but what he plays is also decisive. d6 check from the bishop, bishop e6, and after queen h7 check, Aronian resigns the game on move 22. If king f8 or king f7, then queen h5 check crashes in, queen f5 check crashes in, and this bishop drops. It's already hopeless, and it would have been even more painful to see that. Wow, Carlsen is playing very good chess. He always has played very good chess, and these were my two favorite games. I'll be bringing you more games from another 2 rounds that took place today in other video. I hope you like this one. Stay safe. Thanks for watching. Cheers. Bye.